Okay, so how do we create a sequence and we start editing our videos? Okay, so first you have all the material over here. There are two ways to create a sequence. You can either come here and choose a sequence, and then you can choose from already some presets, or you can come here and select everything you want, and then you're gonna press OK, right? So here is the frame size. These are the most important ones. Frame size, display format, right? The FPS and everything. So let's say you come here and you press OK, and then you're going to create. You can see that if you compare to the video one, for example, it's already different here, the sign, right? So this means this is a sequence. Or if you don't want to create, go through all this work, you want a sequence that is exactly the same as your video, you can just click a video and you can drag the video here, and Premiere is going to automatically create a sequence that is equal to your video, right? So remember that when you do this, it normally creates the sequence inside the folder. You can just take it out and now you have it over here, okay? So some things that can happen, you can come here and, for example, you can create your sequence, and you're going to have, let's say you put, for example, 30 frame rates per second. And if you take a look at my video, it's 24 frame rates, right? If you come here and you just put the video here, he's going to say the clip doesn't match. Do you want to change? It depends on you, right? So let's say in this case, I want to use 24. It's going to be my main one. So I'm going to do change. So now Premiere changed the sequence for me. If I want more info on the sequence or the video, I can just click over here, and then I can come to properties, and I'm going to see, okay, the sequence, this is the kid, this is the FPS. Okay, so these are all the information, right? So after we created the sequence the way that we want, the same thing works with audio, right? You can just drag the audio here, and they're going to create a new sequence for you based on this audio, right? And you can see that over here, you can see the tabs, right? So this sequence over here, this sequence over here, right? I can, for example, a thing that commonly happens, a thing that commonly happens here is when I'm editing the video here, and suddenly I kind of click here. If I close this here, it just means I close the display of the sequence. It doesn't really delete the sequence, right? The sequence is still over here. So if I double click, it's gonna be open. Also, always check which one you are editing, because it's gonna show the white bar over here, okay? So in this case, I just want the other sequence. So I'm gonna come here. I can either delete via here, right? But I just like to come here and I press delete button, or you can, let's see, Control Z, and I'm gonna press here, and then I'm gonna press okay, and then I deleted the sequence. So now I have this sequence. The first thing I wanna do is rename it, right? So I know this is gonna be my main sequence. I can press right button, and then I can probably find around here rename, and I can change the name, or I can just double click with the left one button here, and I can put main sequence, right? So a good thing to understand, a common mistake that beginners do, they want to open the sequence, but instead of clicking here, they just click here and they cannot change the name, or they want to change the name, but they just click here all the time and they're always opening the sequence. Just be sure what are you clicking, because it's going to make a difference if you're either going to rename the sequence or if you're going to open the sequence, right? So after we open the sequence, here is the sequence, and here is where you're going to edit your video, right? So you can see over here the timeline, right? So remember always, when we work with video editing in a higher level, we work with hours, minutes, seconds, and frames, right? So this sequence, in this case, if I come here and I put on properties, 24 seconds. So once you're going to see here, as soon as I go on, let's see, 1, 2, 21, 22. When it goes to 24, you're going to start one here, right? So this is the seconds, not this one. This is the frame, right? So after all your sequence is created, it's time for you to bring the videos that you want inside, right? There are a lot of ways to do this workflow. The one that the most professional people normally recommend is you can either choose the clip that you want, take a look over here, press I, then press O, and then you can, when you press I and you press O, you choose an in point and an out point. This is going to be the place that you want to cut. And then you can either click and drag on this video over here. You see that this is very small, right? I cannot even see the video here. It's because the timeline is too zoomed out. For me to zoom in, there's a couple of ways. I can come close here. You can see that this is, you see the number changer here, right? So this, now I'm seeing 3 seconds, right? If I open, then it's like 10 hours, right? So that's why I cannot see it. This thing here, probably it only has like 15 seconds, so I cannot see it. Another way, that is the hotkey way, right, is if you press plus or minus, right? I put a screen display over here of the keys that I'm pressing, so yeah, maybe sometimes it's gonna not be completely right, but I think it's easier to understand, right? So minus and plus for it to zoom out and zoom in, right? So here on the sequence, this is your marker at the playhead. This is gonna show which frame we are watching, right? Because a video is composed of a lot of frames. So if I press play, you can see that this blue here means what I'm seeing. So this screen, as we were taught, display what is on this screen over here, right? So now you can see that there's nothing, so it's black. As soon as I move it here, oh, you can see her here, right? And if I go, so some important hotkeys for you to understand, minus and plus are the main ones, right? So you zoom in, zoom out. If you want to move one by one frame, you can press right or left, right? So if you want to go to the beginning of a video, or if you're going to want to go to the end, you can just press up and down. It's going to bring you each one, okay? So when you edit videos, you just want to put all your videos here and organize them over here, right? So the way that I told you, you can select here, press iron out, and so a lot of people do like this. This is the recommended one. It's not how I prefer to work. I just like to bring all my videos into the sequence and work with them over here, right? So I'm just gonna come here and I'm gonna zoom in and I'm gonna start scrolling and I'm gonna see, and let's see. So this is, I already cut it here, right? So if I double click here and I press zoom out, you can see that this is already a part of the main one. So that's why I don't really like to cut them over here, because sometimes you confuse when you import them. But let's start from this one, right? So this is the video. You can see here, I just come here and say, like, for example, oh, I like this, or I like this part here when she's putting her hand inside, right? I can just drag with the mouse. That's what I'm doing with the playhead now. So I want this to begin here, right? I can either choose go frame by frame when I want, or in this case, I'm not interested in choosing that. So you can either come here and you can press the C, that is the razor tool, the cut tool, and you can click here. So I made a cut, and then I want to go to the end where she put her hand, right? So I can come here and I can click again, left click. Now I created this small block between these larger blocks, and these blocks here, they don't interest me anymore. So I could just come here, or I can press V, okay? So you can see all the names of the tools and the hotkeys after. And I can just select the ones that I want, delete, delete. Now I have a part of what I want, right? So this is my video here. This is what I do. So what I did here now, so you guys don't get lost, this part here is empty. I don't want this here. I want this to match here. So I could just come here and I could drag this, but I just prefer to click here in an empty space, press delete. He's gonna do it for me, right? So after, I can just watch my videos, and I can just come here and, for example, cut this scene here. I'm gonna press C, and then I'm gonna boom, and then I'm gonna boom. Let's say I'm just choosing random ones, right? You can do it in a more selective way later. And let's say I just want these 3 ones, right? So now I got these 3 parts that I cut it over here. I can just drag this closer, each one, okay? Another trick is, if you have a open space here and you want to drag them closer, make sure that snap in timeline is selected. If it's not, I'm going to show you, for example. If it's not, you can just sometimes go on top and delete the frame, and you don't want to do that, right? So if you have the snap selected, it just blocks it over here. Okay, so you can either drag by hand, or there's click here and press delete, or there is another thing. You can come here to sequence and you can close gap. And if you don't select anything, right, or you select everything in this case, and you go to close gap, he closed the gap for you. Okay, so these are the main things. So after you do this, you can build your sequence here, right? So as we told, there are 3 blocks here, and this is where we're gonna see what is happening. So first one, then we go to the second one, and then we go to the third one, right? If I press play, you can just see it real time. So we got a first cut here, right? So another thing that is interesting to notice, Premiere works in channels, right? So each channel is on top of the other one. So for example, let's say I put this video on top of this, means that when it comes here, it's gonna put the preference on this. Later, we're going to show you that you can do this for example, if I want to put a video smaller than the other one. Okay, so now this one is on top of this one, right? So if I change the order, this one is now on top of the other one, and this is so big I cannot, but if I start to get smaller, you can see. Okay, so this is the beginning. You start dropping your videos here, selecting which ones you want and putting them on order, right? Same thing with audio. You can just add here and it follows the same principle. Here is the audio. You can just cut it here. And if you double click, you can see on the source, the waveform, and you just add whatever you want. And for example, let's say I have an art. I can double click to see my art here. I can also bring the art, and the amount of time that the art is going to show, it can be like 1 frame, 2 frames. It depends. You can choose it over here. You can go to edit, preferences, and you go to, if you don't really know exactly which one, you can just click in any one. Let's say I clicked on Media Cache, and then let's see if I can find it, right? In this case, it's playback, right? So, or timeline in this case, I got it wrong. So it's still image default duration, right? So this is when I add, if I want to add a lot of images with only 1 frame, is 1 frame. Why do we change this? Either if we're gonna add a lot of image and we know exactly what we want, or sometimes if we put in a very small value and you bring it here, and sometimes it's I don't know if this one is gonna change, but sometimes when you bring it here, it just brings it with like 1 frame, and it's very hard to see that the image is here. So we normally just leave a little bit higher. So this is basically how you operate on your timeline, on the principal basic things. And that's it. Later, we're going to teach you how effects control and all the other things works. Okay, hope that was useful.